Hey traders, Raghee here. Welcome to our Monday, February 1st episode of Charts and Coffee. Should be good to go. Great to see everybody. All right, so we're waking up to a really interesting look. Let's take a quick peek at what's going on in the S&P. And anyone who took a look at the Sunday Open like I was, we were looking for a little bit of weakness, and we got it. We definitely got that weakness on the open. And then what we saw is what we're seeing right now. Take a look at this candle here. It was opening way down at the bottom of this range. And what we have now is a whole lot more strength as we go into the, into the open. Rocking a little Ethiopian coffee today in the Viking mug, because I just think it's going to be that kind of day. Should be very interesting. All right, so remember that we have a phenomena that begins with the end of the previous month and then moves into the current month. So the last 3 to 8 trading days of the month, you'll typically see the redemptions. All right. And then when you go into the new month, now here we are in February, we'll see the first. So let's see. You guys are saying the charts aren't showing. All right. Let's see. No chart. Give it a sec, gang. I can't control anything from here, unfortunately. Let's see. Yeah, just give it a minute. Just give it a minute, gang. I've been having weird issues with Chrome for whatever reason in this platform, which for whatever reason, it has not been cooperative. Just give it a minute, okay? For whatever reason, there seems to be about a minute or two lag. Don't know, and I am very likely going to switch over to another platform to do this, because ever since the new Chrome update, it's been a little challenging. But thanks for your patience. Thanks for your patience. Give it about a minute or two. All right, so back to the conversation. So when we go into the first 3 days of the brand new month, all right, what we end up with is sort of a reinvestment. Now, that happens in uptrends. That happens when the market's wider anticipation is for the market for the trend to continue. I do believe we're in a trend continuation environment, right? This is not a reversal. And a lot of folks asked me last week when it came to some of the sell-offs we were seeing. And the GameStop narrative is really interesting. And here's why. As the hedge funds, and it's not just Melvin Capital that has exposure, but as the hedge funds start to have to either cover their GME positions or in some sort of way increase funding, what they're going to do is liquidate the good stuff on their book. All the things that we're not supposed to do as individual retail traders because, we need to be protected and we don't know what we're doing. Wink, right? Those are all the things that they're doing. And then they get to knock on Uncle Stevie's door and ask for $1 billion and Uncle Ken's door and ask for $1 billion, right? So what they do is they end up liquidating a lot of the good stuff to cover those losses, or at least shortfalls in capital. That's a lot of what's creating the volatility. Now, let's talk about what we might see the folks over at Wall Street Bets put in their sites today. And that's going to be, let's take a look at silver. Let's take a look at silver. So I did the free video, by the way, on Friday on specifically silver. Now, I wasn't sure if we would see the breakout, but I talked about contingencies either way. Either way, gang, I need a little bit of a pullback. And it's really interesting for those of you that have been keeping up with the conversation at Wall Street Bets. And you know what? Don't let anybody fool you. There are some intelligent conversations and folks over there. I think that, a lot of the mainstream media wants to dismiss them as clueless boobs. And the truth of the matter is there's more of those on television than there are on Wall Street Bets, or at least they're in equal amounts. So it's really interesting, though. And I do want to bring this image up. This is the, as you can see here, the holders sorted by size of silver. Now, when this starts to permeate that Reddit that Reddit stream, I'll be very curious as to whether or not they will continue to want to short squeeze silver or realize, it's kind of against what they're looking to do, their mission statement. And they might refocus on this. I love Twitter. This is where I find all this good stuff and bring it to you, good folks. Take a look at this. This is the Melvin put position as of, it's 4 months old, 5 months old. But, you wonder if they're just going to start to realign what it is that they want to do. So, yeah, the silver situation is really interesting because, gang, silver, the narrative around silver, and one of the reasons that this could have legs is all of a sudden you're hearing a lot of non-Wall Street bets people say, yeah, silver, it's time. It's time for silver's move. And so look at where silver was about a year ago, what it did, and then the distribution market that it went into. Now, we want to call this distribution because that's exactly what it is. It's a choppy market that the uptrend transitioned into, call it, October, late September. And so distribution markets oftentimes just simply become a way to engage the trend that was and continue to look to the long side, okay? So, look, this is just a distribution market, and the volatility that we're seeing now is clearly from an interesting, unusual external force. But gang, this is not like GME. To me, this is a little bit more the market moving from one end of the range to the other. And there were 3 distinct swing highs that you could pinpoint would be one of the levels that silver could exhaust at. And that would be here, here, and here. And some of these have Darvas levels, these Darvas high, Darvas box levels accompanying them. Some of them don't. So a lot of questions about silver. We've been, look, I've been bullish silver for quite some time, but I'll tell you, this particular move here shook the trend trades loose. And then the transition was, well, okay, we'll transition into an over sold support level buy as opposed to the trend that we had back in here. And those are just the adjustments you make when a trend is broken. All right. Keep that in mind. By the way, it's really interesting. This isn't about silver, and this certainly isn't about Wall Street bets. Take a look. Dropbox looks sort of similar, right? This was a recent trade. Got involved with Dropbox. Market kept moving sideways. The trend that was up. We're looking for just another surge. We got it to a previous swing high. Scale out, move to break even, right? Same idea, whether it's Dropbox, whether it's silver, the patterns are very similar. And this was actually a trade we took in the Sector Secrets Mastery. Just same idea. Respect the trend that was, okay? So really interesting times in the markets right now. Now, there's a question about Freeport-McMoRan. So FCX for me, Freeport-McMoRan, and thanks for the question, Mac. Freeport-McMoRan for me is a little bit more of a copper narrative. And I think copper is actually a really clean trend narrative. I would like to see copper move higher from inside the wave. It's going to need the broader markets to do this. It's going to need the equities markets to move back up in order for it to launch back out of the wave. But whether you're looking at this as sinking into the 34 EMA wave, or whether you're looking at this sinking into a nice Darvas level, this is the thing. The trend that was up, we stick with the bullish side. So thanks for the question on Freeport-McMoRan. And yeah, I'm pretty much still looking at this as a relationship to copper. And I do have some skin in the game on Freeport-McMoRan. I kind of, I think this was an aggro entry because of the proximity to earnings on the entry. But I think it's a good setup related to where copper is right now. All right. So thanks for the question. All right. Can we take a look at Apple? Sure. All right. So Apple, overall uptrend. And by the way, when I talk about overall uptrend, and when I talk about respecting the trend that was and all those things that I discuss here in these Charts and Coffee episodes, this is very much the way in which I trade all markets, whether it be an understanding of what's happening in the futures markets, whether it be something that I'm seeing happening in um, the equity markets, if I'm looking at sector breakdowns, indice breakdowns. The idea is know where the individual stocks are within that sort of universe. And this is, of course, S&P, NASDAQ, Dow, but it's also XLK. So sometimes I might look at the XLK level. I might look at the QQQ level for better clarity. I like the XLK level a little, XLK setup a little bit better, but it's definitely a buy. It's definitely a buy for sure. Thanks for the question. All right, so lots of folks, wondering about silver. Gang, if we're going to engage silver, let it pull back a bit. The silver's been a conversation, silver, copper, gold that we've been having in the futures room for a while. It just happens to be right now uniquely, and let me show you here something. Do I have this here? I may not. Let's see. Where do I have this? I know I have it somewhere. I mean, you don't have to spend a whole bunch of time at Wall Street Bets to decode what's happening. There's a lot of other ways you can do this. And here, let me pull this over here. If you want to take a look at ticker sentiment, it's kind of neat. You can see where silver's landed. I don't think it's going to hang out there for long. So I know a lot of people are wondering, what's next? Right. I mean, GMC and AMC have already done their thing. Be careful with silver because I think that might change pretty quickly within that group. Nokia. So there's some other interesting names in that list. And that's just a quick look at sentiment, because that's really, look, I'm a silver trader. I'm a silver trader. I wonder if for an entire generation, we have the lore of the Hunt brothers. That's for us old timers in the market. But I think there's going to be a whole new generation saying, hey, remember when GameStop turned into a silver squeeze, and look what we did to silver. Very interesting stuff. And there's a whole other group of folks that are flexing their trading muscles, and I love it. I love it. Nike, I don't have a lot of interest in. Shelly, it is interesting that, let's talk about the same thing we discussed with any time a trend breaks, and the trend that preceded it was heading higher. So again, when you look at the chart, you want to notice, hey, how did we get to this chop? And then is there any volume at the lower end of that chop? And yes, Nike has that. There's a very good chance we start to bounce up again, but you might be better off. Now think about this for a moment. Rather than Nike, you might be better off with XLY. XLY is losing a little bit of its traction. Consumer discretionary in the macroeconomic stage that we are in right now, reflation, consumer discretionary typically does well. It typically does well. So keep that in the back of your mind. That's not a setup, but that is a scenario. And so if I want exposure to Nike or even Starbucks, Amazon, a number of those stocks that are heavily weighted within the XLY consumer discretionary ETF, you've got it. You've got it. So this might be a better, more diluted alternative. Rather than betting on that one horse called Nike, you can bet on the tide and not the individual boat, if you will. Mixing horse and boat analogies. Hey, it's Monday. All right. So, okay. And hang on, let me scroll through here. And yeah, gang, for those of you that are catching this on video and not just audio, yeah, I can't, once we go live, I can't control when the charts go live. Unfortunately, I really just can't. I think it's a glitch right now that's happening, and I might just try another streaming platform. This has been about a couple weeks now. We've been having this issue, so I'm kind of over it. I know you guys probably are too. All right, so moving on is a question about Peloton. Sure, let's take a look. Nick, those are some interest. So we just talked about Nike from the earlier question. What about Peloton? So yeah, generally speaking, again, a very similar conversation. Peloton, look at the trend that we've seen since even before June. Little bit of transition in November and December. Here we are once again pulling back. Again, I just want to remind everybody, I sure don't want to short this thing. We're coming into earnings. That's one major reason maybe to kind of sit on the sidelines. But if you're willing to If you're willing to put a bet on with this close to earnings, which is really up to you guys. I mean, I don't typically recommend it, but if you do feel comfortable with that, the narrow candles that we are seeing. So when you take a look at the chart, you see the last three candles, narrow ranging candles inside the 34 EMA high to the 34 EMA low. That's a pretty good sort of low volatility environment. Now, of course, with earnings, as you can see here on the 4th, we're already inside that window for a potential vol crush. But in order to combat that, you look for narrow ranges and you look for a pullback when you want to buy calls. So you're able to pick up those calls at a better price. You're less susceptible to the vol crush. Okay. Let's see. I like the Square narrative. That's something I've been watching. And a lot of folks have been asking, Rog, is Square suffering a pullback because of Bitcoin? And I think partially, yes. I think that's part of the narrative. And I think on the other hand, it's been a little wobbly. You know, it's wobbled in the past. What do I mean by wobble? Take a look at what it did in mid-September. Take a look at what it did at the end of October, and then take a look at what it's doing now. Square is absolutely okay to wobble and still move to the upside. So what I think this wobble is just setting up a potential oversold buy as close to 215 to 200 as possible. Absolutely. I wish there was more volume sitting down at those levels. When you take a look at volume profile and you look at the volume at a specific price, you notice about 208.5 looks very, very interesting. All right, so that's something to think about there. All right, so yeah, by the way, gang, and you know, I think that a lot of folks have become sort of disheartened by what has transpired since the whole GME, Gamma Short and the short squeeze and all this lingo that's happening, and they're kind of disillusioned with Robinhood, shutting it down. I mean, all sorts of crazy stuff. Shutting down first access to it, then limiting the shares. And gang, this is the game we play, and these are the type of apex predators. I love that. I heard that on a podcast over the weekend. These are kind of apex predators we deal with, right? But this is a jungle. And sometimes the gazelle does get away. In fact, the gazelle gets away a lot. And I see us as the gazelle. Just realize you're in the jungle. Know the predators that are out there. Know that these guys can change the rules, but we can still do what we need to do. I'm telling you this right now. I've traded through wars. I've traded through hedge fund implosions. Lots of you guys have traded through many recessions. 1999 tech bubble, 2007, right? Real estate. We've had a lot of these, and we know that it can be very disheartening to see in the way in which they're handled. But gang, we can trade through this. We can trade through this. Leave the ticked offness on the side between 9:30 and 4. We can be irate about it on the weekend, but in the meanwhile, we've decided to trade, and this is a jungle, right? I need Axl Rose to queue up here, but we can trade through this, and we can follow size. We can follow narratives. One of the things that probably has become very obvious is we've got a lot of the tools that the quote unquote big boys do. Right? This is as level a playing field as it's ever been. So to me, I get kind of excited when I think about what Wall Street Bets has shown the retail trader can do. I don't look at this at all in the light of, look, scumbags being scumbags. Should we be shocked by this? No, that's the way I look at it. You guys know the story about the frog and the scorpion, right? If you don't, go look it up. That's what it is. And the punchline is the frog's taking the scorpion across the pond. Halfway through, scorpion stings the frog, and the frog goes, "Oh, great. Now look what you've done. You've killed us both." The scorpion says, "I'm a scorpion." That's what scorpions do. Keep that in mind, gang. Absolutely keep that in mind. We can do what we need to do as traders. All right. So, all right. So is our directional bias still bullish? Yes. Brian, one of the things that I'm going to experiment with in this month is sort of this one setup challenge I've given myself. One of the setups that I taught in my ultimate day trading class was the V-score low. In other words, find the volume derived standard deviation low of the morning and fade that. And I'm going to experiment with that this month, I'm going to have a separate account where I'm going to put nothing but those V scores, no clearing ranges, no trend follows, nothing. Just I'm going to have a separate account doing that. And yes, the only way I can do that is if I have directional bias. And I believe we absolutely do. So gang, it is 9:20. It's time for everyone to head off to their respective rooms. If you're a member of Simpler Trading, I'll see you guys in one of the rooms later on today or this week. In the meanwhile, enjoy the power you have as a retail trader. Enjoy the flexibility. We are assassins, right? This isn't even about showing off size and everything. It's just about watching what's happening in the marketplace and picking your spot, right? So keep that in mind. I'm super excited about the rest of the year. We might see a lot of volatility. Shorten the time frame if you must to combat that, or lengthen the time horizon that your trade can survive some volatility through, some maybe more than average volatility through. There are ways we can adjust. Okay. All right, gang. I will see you all tomorrow, same time, same station. Be good to each other. I'll talk with you soon.